If you're about to use again, drink again, gamble again, or smoke again, this video is for you. So, my name's Rob, and I'm a recovering compulsive gambler. I made my last bet November the 12th of 2022. Now I come online and make content about gambling addiction recovery. But what I talk about here on my account applies to other addictions as well. We're really talking about the same thing going on in the brain, no matter what our addiction is. We're getting hooked to the thrill that we're getting from the external stimulus, and we're going back to it over and over again to feel like we felt before, to feel different. So if you're watching this video right now and you're having some kind of urge to go back and use again, please think twice. What's really important right here is that we remember what the reasons are that we're staying away from our temptation. For me, it's gambling. For you, it could be literally anything else. But for the remainder of this video, I'll speak as if it's a gambling problem, solely because that's what I have and it makes it easier for me to speak about it that way. It flows more naturally. So remembering your why is the most important thing in this situation. If you're clean for X number of weeks or months, you might start to forget why you're even staying clean, because I certainly did many times. And in fact, that's what ended up causing my relapse back in November after I was almost 9 months clean from my gambling addiction. Now, when I think about my why, I have to think about all the negative shit that gambling has brought into my life. Not just the monetary losses, because I could easily justify those. I could get over those after enough time has passed and the money is returned through working. But what I have to remember, and what you need to remember if you're thinking about going back to it, is what else went wrong and who else suffered as a result of my actions. When I was gambling, I was spending between 6 to 8 hours a day placing bets, and I didn't care about anyone else or anything else. I was constantly wanting the next rush. It didn't matter if I had work obligations, school obligations, or if my family needed me that day. If there was a game on that I cared about, I was watching that game. I could be out with friends at a party, and I could be watching a game on my phone or swiping up to refresh scores, because all I cared about was what would happen in that game. It didn't even matter if I had won or lost money, to be honest. It just mattered about feeling that anticipation and that rush. Now, of course, winning allowed me to continue to gamble, but that's beside the point. I have to remember all the times that I neglected those people around me solely to continue feeling that excitement. Now, what happens when you do that? What happens if you were to go and relapse and go back to using or gambling again? Well, you'd be putting all of the relationships and friendships that you've just repaired in jeopardy. When you get into recovery for addiction, one of the very first things that you do is you apologize to the people that you harmed, and you become willing to make amends to them. If you're not willing to make amends to people that you have wronged, you're not really fully accepting responsibility for what you've done. And I certainly didn't in the beginning either. I said, man, it was just gambling. It was just money. It's not that big of a deal. But then I forget about all the times that I lied to my mom about what I needed money for, how I would get mad at my friends if they didn't lend me money, how I caused fights with my girlfriend at the time because I was frustrated with losses. And when I think about all these things, it creates a bigger picture of all the negatives that gambling was bringing into my life, and exactly why I needed to stay away. If you're experiencing a temptation right now to go back to something that you know deep down isn't good for you, you have to remember the bigger picture. Additionally, if you're feeling a temptation to go back, try using this method, because it's been very, very successful for me, especially early on in my recovery. The method is called the delay method. So in the case of gambling addiction, right, you're going to get this urge to say, hey, I really want to gamble right now. This game is great. I'm feeling like bored. I want to get out of my own head for a little while. I want to go gamble. So I'm going to go gamble. And this is the method. Say, I'm going to gamble, but I'm going to do it an hour from now. Because when you take that time, look at it as a cooling off period, or the chance to give yourself a space to reflect. If you say it's an hour from now instead of a second from now, you get to think about, what are going to be the consequences if I do this? Do I actually want to do this, or am I just using it to run away from some other problem? Can I solve this problem by doing something else other than going back to the gambling? Can I think of any people that might be harmed as a result of me going back? And is this going to be something that's going to make me happy by this time tomorrow? When you answer all of those questions over the course of an hour, you put yourself in a really good position to actually stay away once that hour has elapsed. What happens if we don't take the space that we need is that we become impulsive, rash, and we start making the decisions that our brains are hardwired to crave from years of using or being active in addiction. And so what happens is, if we don't take that time, we just snap into our old habits and our old like muscle reactions, our mind reactions, and we don't think about the consequences until after it's over. It's called memory dependent learning or state dependent memory. And it's when we think in specific ways given specific situations. So if you're wanting to gamble, you're going to think more like the last time that you wanted to gamble rather than how you were feeling in your recovery process in general at a calm and collected state. When you're at the point that you were theoretically going to gamble, the idea is that you're not tempted anymore. You're remembering all the reasons you want to stay away. So, what I've always seen relapses and urges to gamble as are really intense moments of temptation that, if we're able to separate out and take a step back from, usually are navigatable. Navigable. That's the word I think I'm looking for. You're able to navigate the situation better when you take time and space from the stimulus and the temptation. So, what's important is if you're feeling like going back to something that you know is going to bring you pain, to give yourself a chance to make the right decision. Now, that doesn't necessarily guarantee that you will make the right decision, nor is it a sustainable thing for the long term. But we're talking about SOS, break the glass type situation right here. And if you have to lie to yourself a little bit and say, hey, you're going to use, but it's going to be an hour from now, that's an okay lie to tell in the short term. Because once you stack up enough time, the temptations gradually begin to recede, and you're going to need this video less and less. But I wanted to come on here and keep it honest with you that these temptations might arise. You might feel like you want to go back to the bet, like you need to go back and use whatever it is that you're addicted to. But it is a brief yet powerful moment that if you're able to just take a few steps back from, you have a real chance to make a difference in your life and not go down that same road that leads to the same shit over and over again. Addiction is a constant repetitive cycle. Do you really want to stay on that wheel? Or do you want to take a step back and try to live a happier and healthier life? I did that over a year ago now, and every single day I wake up happier. You can too. The only difference between where I'm at right now mentally and where you're at mentally is a couple of months. Be patient with yourself. You can beat this. You are stronger than your urges. Do not cave in and go back to something that you know is going to make your life worse. You're strong, and if you've gotten to this point in your recovery where you know you want to quit, you're in such a good spot. I mean, you might feel frustrated, you might feel like you're drowning in debt, or you're going through a withdrawal period right now, or you're depressed, you don't know what to do with your time. But if you look back at how things used to be compared to the challenges that you're facing right now, you're going to smile. Because no matter how bad things feel right now, they are nothing compared to the chaos of going back and using and going through the same shit over and over again. And I promise you that. So, if you found this video informative or helpful in any way, please drop a like on it and share it with someone who's going through a tough time right now. If you ever feel like you're going to go back to your addiction, whether it's gambling, smoking, drinking, drugs, whatever it is, watch this video and remind yourself of your why, remind yourself to take some space, and remind yourself that you can beat this. All you have to do is take that time to make the right decision. I know, and I believe this completely with all my heart, that we can all live happier and healthier lives. And all of that happens one day at a time.